Hello you! It's actually not been all that long for once, has it? So you liked my download preview video, and I've only really just kind of got back down to earth after download, so I figured I might as well just give it a review this time. I know I got an awful lot of shit about Muse, but I don't care. When you've been in this business long enough to know that people are gonna hate you for your decisions and your likes and dislikes, I just don't care anymore. Yeah, I'm not gonna like Muse just because everyone tells me to like Muse. Anyway, stop doing that. Anyway, basically the whole weekend was an absolute hectic kind of whirlwind type of hurricane, but I loved every second of it. I'd never been up on the Wednesday before, so just seeing the kind of things that happened in the village, because before I'd never had the time to check out the village, and by the time bands had finished in the night, I'd been so exhausted that I couldn't go around find out what's going on, and it was pitch black anyway, so yeah, either way. But starting off, on Wednesday, I'd turned up and set up camp and everything after the massive queue. Oh my god, the cashless system failed straight away, and as if you were there, you'll remember that queue coming into the village. But it was something and nothing at the same time. Everyone like handed out beers and stuff, and it was all a kind of good environment, as you would expect to download. We were, people weren't arguing over anything. It was all good. But yeah, so eventually kind of getting up and setting up camp and everything. I didn't quite remember how close the airport was to download. I was stood at the merch stand at one point with my friends, and we heard something, and then you just kind of look up and you can literally see like a different, like every single little screw on an airplane's wheel. That yeah, that scared the life out of me, and I don't think I really got over it as well. As for Wednesday, it was a lot of, it was more kind of just finding food. I think that was the main point, because when I got up on the train, it was an absolute nightmare that the aircon had broken on the train up, and it happened to happen literally in the carriage that I was in. So I was lucky that I had just my leather jacket on, so I could just like take it off and just end up like this. But it was you have no idea when you're waiting on a train for 2.5 hours that has no aircon. It's no fun whatsoever. But the shuttle bus had no aircon either, so just getting on the shuttle bus was a nightmare as well. But what can you do? It was a hot day. We had amazing weather on the Wednesday and the Thursday, beautiful weather, and it just all went to pot really. Especially, it just doesn't help when you're on public transport and in that kind of a weather anyway. But moving on to Thursday. Thursday was more of a time where I could actually just let my hair down and just go on out in the village and find out what was going on and stuff. I spent an awful lot of time in the outdoor cinema. Just, well, I say outdoor, it was in a tent anyway. Yeah, just I spent a lot of time in the cinema watching Lord of the Rings, because they put the first two on, and it's so good to feel that environment. There are no words I can use to describe what it feels like when an entire room full of metalheads are sitting there just shouting back Christopher Lee's lines, especially after what happened that day, that we lost Christopher Lee that day. So whether that was fate or whatever, the fact that that entire cinema was packed out with people cheering every time Christopher Lee came on screen, it's one of those experiences I don't think I'll ever see again, and I'm so grateful that I did, because that was a life-defining moment right there. Just even when the guy wearing a mankini, a Borat mankini, and a Gollum mask got up, and yeah, that just that just made my life. I get called Smeagol a lot myself, because I talk to myself and then I interrupt myself, and I tell myself off for saying something. So Lord of the Rings has a big connection for me, and yeah, that's just life really. But yeah, Thursday was a lot of time spent watching people going into one of the cubicles of the toilets right next to the cinema and the comedy tent, because there was one massive massive turd that had gone like up the wall and, you know, around the seat and stuff like that. So it was more fun waiting for people to go in there and see if they were going to stay in there was another point. It seemed to be guys were the ones that were staying in there because, you know, guys can dodge it, whereas we have to like hover and stuff, and, you know, it's not always that easy. But it was hilarious. I don't even know how long we'd spent stood there, you know, shouting, "Go in cubicle one, Stone Cold would do it," you know. Just, oh, beautiful, beautiful time. Just meeting the kind of people that I've met as well. So many people off like Facebook groups of download stuff. You've all been amazing. So thank you for, you know, showing me that download is not as antisocial as I used to think, because, you know, I used to go with partners and I never spoke to other people because, you know, we were just kind of staying in our bubble. I'm so glad that I just got out and did something and just got to meet people, and yeah, I'm just really pleased that everything worked out in the end. And yeah, thank you to all of you guys, because you're amazing and I love you. But yeah, moving on to Friday. Now this is the problem, I'm just gonna have to pull out my moleskin here because, you know, I don't know what really happened on Friday. Friday was the day that I was running around like an absolute nutcase with interviews, because I had 3 interviews in the space of half an hour. And so, you know, I was running down the press area and like going, oh shit, what do I do? And so I'd interviewed Silosis and Counterparts, and All That Remains had cancelled. So that was, you know, I was running around trying to, you know, research and everything when they weren't actually going to turn up in the first place. It was a pain. But, you know, that whole day ended with Five Finger Death Punch, which were, yeah, I mean, it's good to see them again, you know. I'm not going to say that it was anything breathtakingly different. I mean, they brought the kids on stage, there's nothing really new about that. But yeah, it was just good to hear the kind of songs that, you know, I've loved for God knows how long, and just to really be in that kind of environment, because their crowds are so keen on, you know, just getting to know each other and, you know, sharing the kind of experience with each other. And yeah, that was great just to be in that crowd. And at 7:20 was Judas Priest. I did say in my preview that, you know, basically we are all here because of Judas Priest, right? So it was an incredible honour to finally see them. Just to see Rob Halford's costumes. I don't know how he does it, but he's one of a kind. He's amazing, and I swear he shares a wardrobe with Pet Shop Boys. But, you know, I love Pet Shop Boys. What can you do? Yeah, bringing out the motorbike and, you know, Hellbent for Leather and everything. Really great. Despite the fact, and this is moving on to the next point, an awful lot of rain. That was the one day that I'd decided to wear my hoodie out just because it was getting quite cold, and then it rained on my hoodie. And if you know anything about camping, you'll know that you can't dry anything. So that was my only warm piece of clothing that I actually brought, because, you know, I was expecting it to rain one day and it didn't. That was my one dry piece of clothing, soaked. Yeah. And, you know, I was trying to dry it in my tent for a very long time. So when I went, I had to go back to my tent after Judas Priest because I couldn't stand that rain. That rain was really getting to me, the fact that I didn't actually have an umbrella on me, and I was getting soaked through to the bone because, you know, I was wearing a hoodie. And, you know, I ended up missing Slipknot because I couldn't leave the tent. I was too cold. I was soaked through to the bone, like I said, and yeah, it absolutely ruined the day for me. I sat in my tent for a long time, you know, just trying to pluck up the courage to go out, and then found that my tent had sprung about 6 leaks during the day, well, during Priest and then during Slipknot. And yeah, that was horrendous. That was not something, well, Argos specials for you. Never buy a tent from Argos, especially when it was not like 20 quid. I thought I'd be saving money. I was not saving money, and I left that tent there, safe to say. But yeah, that night was horrendous because the rain was so heavy and I was getting so depressed, and you know, I didn't quite know what to do with myself. I wanted to go home at one point, but I know I had so much work to do that I wasn't going to. But yeah, so might as well move along to Saturday. Now, Saturday started off with Funeral for a Friend. I have never seen Funeral for a Friend before, and I was the little teenager that grew up with them. So when I found out that they were even on the bill, I was like, I have to go and see Funeral. I have to see them because, you know, Hours made my life. Hours pretty much kept me alive, actually, to be quite honest, because everything like Alvarez and Sunny and Streetcar and, you know, Roses for the Dead, everything about that album kept me alive for a very, very long time when I was a teenager. So hearing those songs live was, you know, heartbreaking, but at the same time bloody amazing. And also on Saturday I was interviewing North Lane and In Heart's Wake, and it's typical that I picked like two Australians because they are so lovely. I swear to God, I think Australians are the nicest kind of people just to, you know, interview and just to have a general chat with as well. I'm convinced that we actually ended up just chatting about the weather and chatting about the UK and stuff. But honestly, lovely people, and obviously amazing bands, otherwise I wouldn't have, you know, interviewed them. Bloody amazing guys, honestly, and I can't put it into words. What else was there that day? That was the day that the mud struck. So I had to go back to the village and trudge along back and get myself some wellies. And I was walking around in my Converses, and I don't know how I really survived up to Saturday afternoon. I really don't know how I survived up to Saturday afternoon. Anyway, so yeah, I had to trudge back to the village and get hold of some wellies. Then I went straight back down for Motionless in White. Now, you know I love Motionless in White, and there's no doubt about it. They're amazing to me. But what made that day kind of so much more significant was the fact that I actually met Chris Motionless that day. I was kicking around the press area and I saw at the corner of my eye when I was interviewing someone, I saw a leather jacket with a Bauhaus patch on the back of it, just kind of walking out of my peripheral vision. And I thought I recognised him, but I wasn't entirely sure because, you know, I was stuck in the zone with the whole interview. And yeah, as I left the press area, I could see him sat with doing an interview, and yeah, I stood there for about half an hour waiting to speak to him. I was convinced that, you know, I was going to tell him everything about how much he means to me, and I didn't really. I just kind of said, it's really good to see you, and, you know, can I have a photo and things like that. And he just turned to me and he said, nice shirt, because I was wearing a shirt. And, you know, it just kind of self-affirming, you know, type of experience, just to finally meet him and finally be able to, you know, stand in front of him, you know, trying to take a photo, because I was so short and he's so tall that he was literally cowering down, you know, bending down trying to get in the photo. It was unbelievable. But he's so sweet, he's amazing, he's absolutely lovely. But Motionless in White performing as well, beautiful, because they brought on Ash Costello, obviously. Ash Costello, beautiful. I missed New Year's Day that morning and I was gutted because I was doing interviews, but absolutely amazing band. And, you know, obviously Motionless are, you know, absolutely up there. And what else was there that day? Andrew WK, ah my god, I was so excited for this. I went back to my tent and bloodied up my nose. So yeah, luckily there are no photos surviving of that. That's good. But yeah, I absolutely adored Andrew WK, and it was that kind of environment because I had loved Andrew since I was a very, very young kind of teenager, like watching Jackass when I was a kid and loving every kind of little aspect of what Andrew does. And I'm ridiculously happy that I finally got to see him. That's it. Now I can die happy. Now I've seen Andrew WK. I'm a little bit gutted that they didn't play Totally Stupid, but that's my life and I'm gonna have to stick with that. But yeah, after that obviously was Mr. Marilyn Manson, and if you look at this face, you can kind of tell that Manson's a big influence on me. So ever since I was a little tiny person, not that little, obviously, yeah, I've loved Manson ever since I was a kid, and I am so grateful that I finally got to see one of the most amazing shock rockers, bar obviously Alice Cooper, but you know. I've seen two of the three now. I've seen Rob Zombie, I've seen Marilyn Manson, and I'm just waiting for Alice Cooper, putting it bluntly. But yeah, it was great to see him, and the glitter bombs and the pyro and smoke screens, absolute perfection. And yeah, just bringing out the pulpit and everything, and pulling everything like Deep Six and Third Day of a 7-Day Binge. Beautiful. I couldn't have faulted it whatsoever. Finally hearing Disposable Teens live. I mean, obviously Personal Jesus and Sweet Dreams, but you know, Disposable Teens got everyone on their feet. It was beautiful. Right, now Sunday. Sunday's the big one because obviously I was interviewing 3 Days Grace and Like a Storm. And, you know, I'll just tell you quickly about Like a Storm, because Like a Storm were the first band that I interviewed for Metal Hammer. And to me, that was a really, really emotional kind of thing, just being able to finally do the job that I've been dreaming about. And, you know, I spoke to Matt Brooks from Like a Storm, and it was, I messaged him just before I was due for my interview, and I was saying, you know, I'm booked in at like 3:10 with one of you guys. I don't know whether it's you or not, but it would just be really good to kind of see you and just say thank you for everything that you did for me. I could see him bounding over the press room and, you know, coming straight towards me and going, this is it, it's you, it's, you know, it's finally you. And this is exactly how we both kind of stood there, just in complete awe that, you know, this was what had set my career off and what had helped him and his band, you know, internationally. So it was a real kind of cathartic experience for the both of us, and you know, I'm just so grateful that I finally got to meet him in person. And he's an incredible man. I love him to pieces. And so yeah, I cannot stress enough that if Like a Storm do come back this time, well, they will this year, but when they do come back, please go and see them. Please, I am begging you. Didgeridoo metal. Like I said, just, you have to. There is no two ways about it. But that day was We Are Harlot. Now you know, you probably know already that I am a big fan of We Are Harlot, and not just because of Danny Warsnop, obviously, but because I'm a massive classic rock fan. And We Are Harlot, beautiful. There is nothing to fault about them. I saw them again on my birthday on the Wednesday after Download in Islington, and I will never stop wanting to see them. I love them. There's nothing I can fault, literally. Not even Queen covering. Although Queen covering is always quite a dodgy thing to do in my head, but you know, I love it, so I have nothing wrong with that. And so then we had Slash at 5:20. Ooh, yeah, because I missed the Darkness because I was in an interview, but you know, I've seen the Darkness a few times before, so yeah. But either way, finally got to see Slash this time. Yeah, I'm so grateful, because this time 3 years ago at Download 2012, I was walking past the second stage on the way back to the village when Slash was playing, and I could hear Anastasia, and I was just so gutted that I think I was too tired that day, that I had just had to go back to the tent, and I was so gutted that I'd missed Slash playing Anastasia. So I finally got to see it, and I finally got to see Miles Kennedy singing to Night Train, which is my favourite Guns N' Roses song ever. So I'm really pleased I finally got to see that. And then at 7 was Motley Crue. And you see, I'm not a massive Motley Crue fan. I don't know why. I think, you know, just despite the fact that I'm a whole kind of glam, kind of classic rock kind of girl, I don't think I've really paid all that much attention to Motley. But, you know, obviously I'm going to be at Motley's farewell tour because of the certain support act being, you know, Alice, obviously. Yeah, thank you to all you guys that pointed that out to me as well, because I was seeing so many different, you know, different tweets and emails and stuff about Motley announcing their dates, And I was like, why are you telling me this? You know, I'm not all that big a Motley Crue fan, in case you haven't noticed. But then I finally worked out that obviously it was Alice. So thank you to all of you, lovely people. And obviously closing the night off with Kiss. Now there were so many expectations in my head about what Kiss were going to be like, and they smashed every single one of them. Absolutely perfect. I loved every single second of, you know, Paul Stanley coming over on zip wire and the fireworks, and finally seeing Gene Simmons doing the blood spitting kind of demon stuff, and the platforms that came out on top of the crowd. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I was bawling my eyes out because they didn't play Crazy Crazy Nights and they didn't play God Gave Rock and Roll to You. But I'm just glad I've finally seen Kiss. Finally, after, you know, being that little kid that was listening to Beth and Love Gun and everything from that small. I keep thinking that I was that small at some point. I was in fact a bean. Yeah, so I'm very, very grateful that I finally got to see them. And yeah, just basically that entire weekend was probably the best download I've ever been to, because I got out of my shell. I'd done myself a favour by meeting other people. I'd been working the festival, obviously. I'd been meeting bands and just getting to speak to people, and I am so incredibly grateful to Already Heard for sending me out there in the first place, to Mel Hammer for, you know, helping me out with a little thing, a little feature that's coming out in Metal Hammer, but I will not tell you too much about that, but you'll find out very soon. And yeah, just thank you to everyone that I've met for making Download 2015 the best I've ever had. So I'm just going to close it off there, but thank you ever so much for sitting around and watching, and thank you to all my lovely subscribers. If you fancy subscribing, then there's a little button down here. No, it's not on my Nirvana shirt. That's fine. Anyway, fantastic. Have a lovely day then. Take care, guys. See you on the flip side.